Hello everyone, welcome to Economy Simplified Series of Drishti IAS. My name is Disha and today the topic for the discussion is chipflation. We will try to understand that why this term is in news currently and is India witnessing the effects of chipflation. So this is the CPI data which I have attached here. So as you can see that chipflation is pushing up the prices of consumer electronic products. What does that mean? That the prices of consumer electronic products in India have increased. Okay. So the red bar denotes the data from January 2026 to July 2026 and this blue bar denotes the data from January 2025 to July 2025. Okay, so as you can see that in last year the rise in the prices of AC was just up to 1.1%. That means the prices of AC raised just up to 1.1%. But if we look into this year's data, the rise in the prices of AC is up to 4.8%. Okay. Similarly, if we talk about the mobile handset, that means smartphones, you can see that this year the prices of mobile phones have increased up to 4%. As compared to previous year, what was the net increase? It was minus 0.7%. Alright, so we can see that the prices of consumer electronic products in India are witnessing a rise in prices. Okay? Yes. According to CPI data released by the Ministry of Statistics, Program and Implementation, prices of several consumer electronic products increased by around 3 to 5% between January and July 2026. Okay? Now this is little weird because technically the prices of technology products should reduce gradually over the time. Why? Because as our technology improves, the production becomes really efficient and all of that results in the reduction in the price of electronic products. But right now the situation is different. Now why this situation is different? Is this has something to do with the chipflation? The answer is yes. Now let us discuss what actually chipflation is. Okay? Chipflation, if we will break down this keyword, you will get chip plus inflation. Here we are talking about the memory chips or semiconductor chips. That means the prices of memory chips or semiconductor chips have increased. And because of that, it has led to the rise in the prices of electronic products. Now let us have a look into the definition. Chipflation refers to increase in the prices of electronic goods resulting from the rise in the cost of semiconductor chips used as essential inputs in their production. Since the prices of semiconductor chips have increased, because of that, the price of electronic products have also increased. Now, this is what chipflation means. Now, always remember, chipflation is not a separate category of inflation, right? Inflation has different categories. We have cost push inflation, we have stagflation. So, chipflation is not a separate category. It is a term which is coined by one of the analysts at Morgan Stanley in June 2026. This term is used just to describe the economic phenomena currently which the world is going through. It is just it describes an economic phenomena, right? So this is not a separate category of inflation. First of all, remember that. Okay. Now, as I have told you, it should not be confused with the separate type of inflation. It is a descriptive term used for the cost push inflationary phenomena. Okay. Chipflation can be used as a descriptive term for the cost push inflationary phenomena. Have you heard about cost push inflation? Cost push inflation. Now, what do you mean by cost push inflation? It means that the prices of final products have increased. Why? Because the prices of intermediate product has increased. Okay. Now, what do you mean by intermediate goods? Intermediate goods are raw material which are used to make, which are used in the production process of final products. Okay. For example, if I take an example of biscuit, if I have to manufacture a biscuit, so for that, what will be an intermediate good? Flour and sugar. Flour and sugar will be an intermediate product. Okay. Now, if the prices of flour and sugar will increase, now automatically the prices of biscuits will also increase. The prices of biscuit will increase as well. Okay. So the similar situation we are facing. Now, semiconductor chips is used in the electronical components. Semiconductor chips is used in laptops. smartphones, AC, automobiles, even in the vehicles, the semiconductor chips are being used. Even in the defense equipments, semiconductor chips are used. So since the semiconductor chip acts as an intermediate good in the production process of consumer electronic products, because of the rise in the prices of semiconductor chips, the prices of consumer final goods have increased. Now this is what chipflation is described. Okay. All right. Now which chip has increased, the price of which chip has increased? Let us try and understand that. Which chip is at the center of the problem? Now the major concern is DRAM, that is dynamic random access memory. Now it is this memory chip whose prices have been increased, and it is expected that its price will increase further in future because the demand has increased. Okay, DRAM is a type of semiconductor memory that provides a temporary working memory required by electronic devices. Now this DRAM is required, it is widely used in smartphones, computers, laptops, televisions and refrigerators. Therefore, the significance of DRAM lies in its wide use across the consumer electronics. This DRAM is very widely used in the consumer electronics. Okay, now you must ask this question. Okay, this question should come to your mind, that why the prices of memory chips are increasing? What is the core reason? The reason is very simple. Since the AI is booming, AI is being used very widely in our daily lives. Okay, AI is used in educational sector. It is also used in healthcare, governance. Most of the companies globally, investors are investing in data centers. Okay, the rapid expansion of AI has resulted in massive investment in data centers. Now, data centers are places where your data is stored and where our data is processed. Let's say if you are asking a question from a chat GPT that what is inflation or describe inflation. Now, while answering your question, your data will be processed. Okay, then you will receive an answer. Now, all of that activity, all of that huge computational power is required in data centers. And it is this data center which needs the memory chips. Okay, AI data center requires sophisticated processors and large quantity of high performance memory. So for this high performance memory chips or semiconductor chips is required. At the same time, semiconductor manufacturing capacity is limited in the short run. Okay, our semiconductor manufacturing capacity is very limited. There are only few semiconductor manufacturing companies which are currently at an operational level. Okay, so it has a limited capacity. Since the capacity is limited, plus the demand has increased. Because of this reason, therefore, manufacturers have to allocate their existing production capacity between different category of chips. Let's say that I have a semiconductor manufacture facility. Okay, I have the capacity to produce 100 memory chips. Okay, I have the capacity to produce 100 memory chips. But the demand has increased. Now I have the two categories of buyer. The first category of buyer is what? The data center companies. They also want memory chips. And the second category of buyer is whom? The companies who are making consumer electronic products. I have two separate category of buyers, and the demand of semiconductor chips have increased. So therefore, I have to allocate my existing production capacity between different category of chips. So in a way, the supply is not able to match along with the demand. Now you might ask me a different question, that why can't we increase the supply? Because the demand has clearly increased. We can witness that, right? So for that also there are different reasons. Let us try and understand that. Okay, why can't semiconductor supply respond immediately? Why cannot we increase our supply? Because there are many reasons. First of all, it requires extremely high capital investment. Okay, you need a very high capital investment. Because of this reason, you cannot increase the supply. Plus, there is a complex manufacturing technology. You need a specialized equipment for that. Okay, it is not similar to like an ordinary consumer product. Let's say, for example, the prices of the demand of bread has increased. Okay, right now everyone wants to eat a bread. So basically what a manufacturer can do is they can buy a different oven. They can buy more oven and then they can increase their production of bread. But the same thing cannot happen with the semiconductor facility because it requires a specialized equipment and it is not easy to buy these equipments. Okay, then there is a long construction and installation process. These machines cannot be installed very quickly. So in a short run, supply cannot be matched along with the demand. It requires a specialized workforce. You need a very specialized workforce who know how to operate the machines. Then there is a limited availability of key inputs. Now the inputs, the raw material which is used to make the semiconductor chips, there is a limited availability of those key inputs. So because of these reasons, so therefore semiconductor supply is relatively inelastic in the short run. Now what do you mean by inelastic supply? Inelastic supply is that kind of a supply where quantity supply cannot be increased despite of rise in the prices. Okay, technically, let's say if I am a manufacturer, what technique I should do what? If the prices are increasing, I should increase my supply in order to make the profits. But the case is different with the semiconductor supply facilities. They cannot increase their quantity supply despite of prices being on a higher side. Okay, because of these reasons. So here the supply is relatively inelastic. It is not easier to increase the supply. Okay. Now, before moving forward, I have a special announcement for you. So currently, there is a Raksha Bandhan special offer specifically for the female student. There is a special scholarship on offline GS foundation course where you will get the 21% flat scholarship on the course fee. Okay, if you want to avail this offer or want to know more about it, you can call on this number, that is 87501 and 87501. Now let us talk about the effects of chipflation. What are the effects of chipflation? The first effect is higher prices of electronic goods. Okay, the prices of electronic goods have increased. That is currently we are witnessing. India is currently witnessing a chipflation. Okay, rising chip prices increase the cost of smartphones, laptops, servers and TV. Higher input cost. Since the semiconductor chip is an input, the input cost has increased. It can be passed on to the consumers. Okay, now not only the prices of electronic goods will increase, the prices of automobile goods will also increase because semiconductor chips is also used in the automobile sector. Modern vehicles use semiconductor for infotainment and sensors, engine control and safety system. Okay, this can also lead to the cost push inflation. Semiconductor are important intermediate input. I've explained you this. Okay, semiconductor are an important intermediate input. Now higher chip prices can lead to the higher production cost, and manufacturer will pass on this production cost to the consumer, and that will increase the price of the final product. That is what currently we are witnessing. It can also cause the production delays. Okay, if chips will become expensive or scarce, if there will be a limited availability of those semiconductor chips, manufacturers may face a shortage and supply disruption. Okay, fifth point is strategic and geopolitical impact. We will also witness the geopolitical impact of that. Okay, dependence on limited number of semiconductor producing regions can create a strategic vulnerabilities. Only limited number of companies are there who produces the semiconductor chips, and if any strategic vulnerabilities occurs, let's say if there any geopolitical conflicts occur, or let's say if any disaster happens, then it can create a vulnerability or supply chain disruption. Okay, now sixth, impact on India. See, it can increase our import bill. Why? Because currently we are dependent. For semiconductor chips, we are dependent on imports. India currently imports a lot of semiconductor chips from other countries. Okay, now since the prices of these semiconductor chips have increased, that means there will be a rise in the import bill, and this will deplete our foreign exchange reserves. Higher semiconductor prices can increase India's import cost for chip dependent products. That's why India is pushing towards the to start the semiconductor facilities in India itself, so that we can reduce our import dependence. Okay, we should have our own domestic manufacturing capacity. Okay, now at last I have a practice question for you. Now you have to solve this question. Consider the following statement regarding the chipflation. First, it refers to the inflationary pressure arising from the rise in the semiconductor prices. Second, a rise in the chip prices can increase the production cost of electronic goods. Third, chipflation is officially classified as a separate category of inflation in CPI. Now, which of the statements given above are correct? Option A, first and second. Option B, second and third. Option C, first and third. Option D, first, second and third. Write down your answers in the comment section. I hope you liked today's lecture. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.